MTAS, it's Jodie Steele and welcome to the Heathers Backstage Tour.
So, as Blaine said, my name's Paul and together with Bill Kenwright I have the pleasure of co-producing Heathers here at the Theatre Royal Haymarket. We're drawing to a close, we've only got 2 weeks left, so do try and come and see it, it's wonderful. But today, and if you're watching this, is really about giving you a bit more of an insight to some of the Heathers specific things that happen backstage on this particular show, but also to tell you about the wonderful work of Theatrecraft and Masterclass and what they're doing at the moment. In a few weeks' time, I'm hosting a workshop which will talk more about the roles that are available to people backstage. Because sometimes there's a bit of a mystery. The only people we really see as audience members are the actors. And of course, I always say, it takes a village to make a show, particularly Heathers. And there are so many roles that we know very little about. So today, hopefully, we're going to give you a bit of a glimpse into what some of those roles are. So you're going to go on a guided tour via me, and there's lots of you, so we're going to kind of snake our way backstage. But here we are in the auditorium of the wonderful Haymarket Theatre. And as you can see, for Heathers particularly, Heathers is a big musical, but the Haymarket, I think it's fair to say, is a playhouse here. And our sound designer, who is responsible for making sure what is heard by the audience, has had to work really hard to ensure that the audience can hear the show to a certain quality, but also that our actors on stage, over all the screens every night, can also hear the band who are quite far away. In terms of other departments that are involved in that, we have over there at the back of the auditorium, we have the sound number one, Izzy. The reason she's in the auditorium and not in a box somewhere is because that means she gets a sense of what the audience are hearing, so she hears it live. So if she needs to adjust anybody, she can do that. And then backstage, we have our sound number two. So he's basically there if anything goes wrong. So if someone's mic goes and he's checking levels to make sure they're all okay. Now you'll notice for anyone that's seen the show that a few of our characters are double mic. So that means that Carrie and Jamie, because they don't go off stage very often, they have two mics, which is why theirs looks bigger than everybody else's. And also when they're off stage, they're doing quick changes. They don't really have time to change microphones. So that's what happens out here. Now follow me, we're going to go into the royal box. I'm surprised they let me in here, but they do. But here, there's some just royalty on the walls here, and I'm told that is the real Queen's signature. There's a bit of history for you. Okay, Jodie Steele, she's in here, that's good. Come on in.
Hi!
Come on in, come on right in. She's casually just doing her makeup, getting ready. Come on, right in.
Hi guys! Just making myself look okay for camera. How is everybody? Yeah, good. Yeah, there's quite a lot of you.
There's loads, come on in, filter
I don't think
in.
we've ever had this many people in this dress.
Now before we talk about an actor's interaction with the backstage crew and who you interact with during a show, talk to us about these scrunches, because I know everyone's going to want to speak about those.
Yeah, so basically, we didn't know it was a thing until we opened at the other palace and people started throwing scrunchies at us and we were like, oh, this is so cool. So as you can see, we've got the yellow ones, the green ones, and the red ones. But I think Veronica might be pretty close. In fact, we're all pretty close. It's just, I think, because the red scrunchie is the actual kind of Heathers thing, you know. So the
amazing thing, the fan art that we get on Heathers is brilliant. How did Sophie Isaacs end up with the biggest mirror in the corner there?
Well, she got here first, so...
Oh, okay, so she popped herself down there.
So the littlest one got the biggest mirror. Our ASM props. And you may think, oh, props. Okay, there's a lot of props. And they're vital. If you're missing one, you know, that scene might not work. And our DSM, they call the whole show. So cues for lighting and sound is our DSM. If she doesn't say go, that lighting cue or sound cue doesn't happen.
So she's essentially sat there with a script.
Yeah.
And on the script she'll know the certain cues and at what point in the music or what point in the script they have to be called.
Yeah.
And most of the times on a musical your DSM will need to read music because it might come at a certain bar. And on Heathers a lot happens at the same time, right?
Oh my gosh, yeah. If you think the explosion, she'll have to line up a sound cue, a lighting cue, a smoke cue, and go for all three. So she'll be like LX 100 and blah blah, smoke blah blah blah, like numbers, and she knows everything by numbers. The other day she was like, yeah, I just need to rejig Jodie's light, it's LX 62, and I was like, how do you know that?
It's a minefield, isn't it?
Yeah, so that is a really, intense and incredible job. They're like, it's like in their hands, I feel, the show. We have Izzy as our sound one as well. So she's amazing. She comes to us before every show and in every interval, says, girls, how are you feeling? Who needs a little bit of help today? And we're like, oh, maybe me a little bit. And she can, she's a genius. She can help us. And someone...
When you say help, do you mean give you more volume?
Yeah, if we ask for maybe a little bit more... reverb on our voice, just to give it some oomph, then you can. And if we say, can we have a little less band, or maybe can we have some more drums, she's like, yeah, sure, but she'll give it to us on stage and make sure that the sound out front to the audience.
Because it's a big sing, right?
It's a big sing.
So how do you look after yourself?
Lots of water, lots of sleep, eat really healthily.
I'm just looking for any McDonald's wrappers underneath.
No,
there's no McDonald's
loads
there, okay.
of water,
Okay.
and you do have to eat really healthily as well, I feel, because otherwise whatever you put in you get out, so if you're eating McDonald's, then you'll be a McDonald's on stage.
Well, should we take them to meet some of the stage management team? So we're going to go back through this door. With this, I will follow you, so feel free to go. We're just going to go to the right.
Go for it.
That's it, just straight down.
I'll just follow you, go.
Right, tell us what happens here then, in this space.
So this is the crossover for the show. It's how you get from stage left to stage right, but we've made it into Wardrobe Village. In this theatre, the dressing rooms are quite far away. So that means that a lot of the time, if there isn't time for them to go back to their dressing rooms, or the inclination to go back to the dressing rooms, we keep a lot of their costumes here. And there's also a little quick change area down there, because sometimes they need a bit more privacy if they want to get changed rather than in the middle of the corridor. And the guys sit down here in between going on stage.
Who has the most costumes?
Who has the most costumes? Probably one of...
So Brandon's one of our male ensemble who plays a lot of different characters over the course.
The parents have a lot of costumes, so the guys who play the parents and the teachers, because they swap when they've got multiple roles, they switch it in and out.
And they're teenagers and big fun.
Yeah.
How often are they washed? I should know this. Do you wash these kind of things here? Do you wash those?
Yeah, they get freshened up.
Yeah, they get freshened.
Someone told me that you spray vodka.
Yeah, it's sanitizer, so
There's a little tip. Don't drink it, spray it. Okay? I'm just looking at this here. For any of you wondering what this is part of the Heather's Graveyard. So for any of our wonderful corn nuts and fans of the show that came to the first ever preview, this thing, let's call it, ended up in the first preview. And I just felt that it was the wrong tone for the show. So for the more observant members of our audience, it was replaced with a 3D version. So we ended up with an actual kind of half hedge, didn't we? And no one's put it on the bonfire last night, unfortunately. If they're going to leave to go and do another job, then A, we hate them and never speak to them again. But B, when we love them again, we actually let them put a dep in. But the way normally it would work with a musician is they would then be responsible for teaching their dep the show. So that's what's happening in here. Come on in.
Bronze Masters.
Somewhere. Oh, yes.
Wait, you're welcome. Me. Oh, that's cheeky.
Yeah.
Let's see what I've got.
Fascinating though, watching what you can do with costumes very, very quickly. I mean, sometimes it means the actors are quite hot on stage, because even talking about Carrie there, all that I can think about is the amount of layers she must have on. This is interesting. So this is our sound number 2 here. In motion. What, you're checking mics there, yeah?
Yes.
So before every show, they get checked?
Yes, I'm basically making sure that they're all sounding good, sounding like...
And what are you checking for? Battery levels or...?
Battery levels, making sure they haven't been too sweaty, so they're sounding clean.
So and if they get sweated out, what do you need to do to clean them?
So you can do a good old flick with them up with your little finger. Do it.
Just a flick. Really technical term there. Just give it a flick if it's sweated out. Yeah.
Compress there. So
compress there.
Yeah. Just making sure that Izzy gets a nice clean sound.
Yeah. We're going to make our way onto stage. Oh, that's better. Come on. So although the set is a wonderful view, I find the most impressive view the actual auditorium. It's so beautiful. Do you remember we were talking about the set and the way that it was almost like a hovercraft over the set, and that happens with those buttons there. Are they charged?
They might be empty.
Yeah, so that's off, and as you see, it rolls, so you can't.
Right.
And how do you stop that? Which is amazing.
And there definitely has been a couple of times, for instance me, that I've accidentally kicked it and us headers have come rolling down.
It's like a mad panic
Like-
to try and get it to stop.
Yeah, so you have to, yeah.
But I find the charging of them really interesting because you kind of just pump them with air, right?
Yeah.
It's
And
really
then they
noisy.
just hover across the floor, which is quite
And
impressive.
you're charging every single day to make sure it doesn't run out.
Yeah, I live in fear that it will
Wow.
stop working halfway through the show.
Yeah, of course. But in terms of musicals, Heather specifically is quite light in terms of the amount of set it has, right?
Yeah.
And it's quite inventive because we don't have the depth backstage and we don't have any flying equipment. We've had to be quite inventive with what is on the stage in terms of taking us to a different location. So if you look here, everything is on a slider. Everything is on a slider on these grooves along the floor. Show us. And it's double-sided, right?
Yeah.
Does that happen on stage? Do we see that on stage? That
This one.
It doesn't.
not anymore.
They used
It's
to
gone to the Heather's graveyard.
It means I look after all the lights on the show and keep the show up and running from a lighting perspective. Kind of what you were just talking about there is all me and stuff. So but yeah.
How often do they break?
Some more frequently than the others. It depends.
Yeah.
It's very much dependent on what kind of light it is. We have some which are very, very much so. What's the word? Temperamental. We have
So
some
what
which are
happens
far more
if you've
responsive.
got with the show started? It's the middle of Act 1, and the mover, that's the moving light that's meant to light someone at a really poignant moment, breaks.
Depending on what it was, we'd probably pick them up with a follow spot if we needed to, or
Right.
in other ways just try and cover what we can. Obviously
Amazing.
making stage management aware and the cast beforehand.
So those are two very, very important people that live
Oh
up
yes,
there.
our follow spots
Our
are
follow spots.
very important.
One of
people.
them's come from the other palace with
Yeah.
us as well, so that's kind of cute.
And they basically light the actor as they're moving.
Yes, indeed. Following, we've got all sorts of pickups. They're very busy throughout the show. Our follow
Yeah.
spots, very crucial to the show.
Someone told me about this new technology, which is that sometimes an actor can put a little sensor in their wig
can
cap
indeed, yeah.
that the moving lights just follow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we're old-fashioned here, and we prefer that.
We're slightly more modern. These are they're kind of half intelligent, our follow spots, so they do some of the work for the follow spotters,
Great.
not detracting from how much work the follow spotters actually do. But yeah, they kind of we're getting there.
Brilliant. Is that sometimes when you're going into theatre, it can feel a little bit, as I said earlier, mysterious. And you know you want to be in theatre because you believe it's in your DNA. You go and watch musicals and you love them, and you go and watch plays and you love them. But you don't really know what anyone does or how you get into it. And there's so many people, my peers and colleagues, that kind of started off on one path and have ended up in another one. What would you do if you weren't an actress? Maybe I shouldn't ask that to an actress.
Cry. No, probably something fitness-wise.
Yeah.
Although, now that we've just done this, I was just backstage thinking, I'd
What
love
would
a
you do
dab at
backstage?
this. I think props. I'd
Yeah?
be all over that. I love it when he makes the pate. I never know what I'm going to get on a day-to-day basis.
Okay.
Whether it's going to be soft.
So you basically want to be in stage management to eat the pate,
Yeah.
as opposed to enjoying stage management. Great.
I always sit with towel and stuff, and I just think to be backstage, they get the same nerves as us. Like, there's just as much pressure on them as
Of
there is
course.
on us. Do you know what I mean? Just because they're not seen, and I think the buzz of just being in a theatre and having the audience there, and you're hidden, and I just think.
But the reality is, on most shows, there's as many people backstage making sure that show happens. And thank you all so much for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys.